have dual citizenship, they're also Gambians.
Well, they are, but having been imprisoned, they were anxious to leave, and they are relieved. They're out of prison. Their families are relieved, and the Gambia is relieved. And now you see a flow of good news stories. If you'd had longer jail sentences, more executions, but a series of bad news stories. But I see the opposite taking place. And that's because of presidential leadership. Leadership, and it's not always a popular decision. Leadership at its best is not follow opinion polls. It molds opinion and does what's right and what's good for the country. I am convinced that setting the captive free is good for the country. We've done this before down through the years. We challenged President Assad in Syria to let Lieutenant Robert Goodman, an American soldier, go. He let him go. The good news for America in Syria at that time. We went to Cuba, where Cuban Americans have been locked up for a long time, and Castro let them go, trying to build bridges. We went to Iraq and met with Saddam Hussein, where Americans and others, Americans, British, Canadians, French were set free. Every time there's a release of prisoners, it always opens a little more window for dialogue. And dialogue is key to any good diplomatic relationship with the Yugoslavia. It brings 3 soldiers back from there under Milosevic. And so, and we did the same thing in Liberia. So this is in the lineage of our attempts to set the captives free and heal the broken-hearted as a way of building bridges and tearing down walls.
Well, before you decided to make this trip to come to Gambia, there was a lot that was being said on the internet. There was a lot of talk. I mean, people were taking this to a level that it wasn't even, that far, because some people would even say they're scared to come to Gambia. And then you are here right now. What were your expectations, and what you were thinking when you were?
I thought fears about coming to Gambia were unfounded fears. And it was really unfair to the people of the Gambia, and the progress has been made. Never as a democracy, there's always give and take, there are always ups and downs. And there are always curves, sometimes potholes in the road. But the Gambia is a growing, this is a different Gambia than it was at independence time. You had, I think, 2 hospitals, now you have 8.
Yes.
The growth.
You have free education.
You have high schools, you have a university developing. I mean, there's some good stuff happening here. And so I'm not afraid to talk to African leaders about African development. And I want to foster more aid from and trade with the U.S. or Europe. Because African countries for so long were victims of one-way trade. The colonizer traded on his terms or her terms. But now African leaders are emerging demanding reciprocal, mutual beneficial trade, where you not only send raw materials out, but you begin to manufacture, not just buy finished product, but you, from your earth, dig up the resources and manufacture, and you sell abroad. And that's an emerging wave of economic security and maturity.
Okay. When you met President Jammeh, because I saw online, Gambians living outside of the Gambia saying Reverend Jackson is going to Gambia, call his office and talk to him. What was your first impression when you walked into his office and saw him? Were you like, do I really want to talk to him about this because Gambia is a sovereign country? Did you have that in mind?
Well, Gambia is a sovereign country. We must respect its laws. But my appeal relative to the executions that were scheduled was humanitarian thing. I urged him to do it because I felt it was the right thing. That was my opinion. And when we called him last week and sent a letter to meet with him through the foreign minister, he called back and said we couldn't meet. That was a good news sign. That would please all around the world. Please don't extend the executions. And last Friday, he decided to have a temporary halt on the executions, and that sent good news around the world. We got in on Sunday to meet with him, and we have had rapport across the years. So I look forward to the meeting. I felt it would be a reasonable success because he's a reasonable person. and has the power to make strong decisions that he can live with.
Yeah. And one thing, because a lot of Gambian, the Council of Elders also spoke to him, and that was when he said he would put a hole into it. And it's a good thing that you were also able to make it.
The fact that he can listen, he has 2 ears.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
Both of them. Because sometimes leaders develop hard hearts and closed ears, and they cannot hear. And that's really a bad sign. Leaders at their best must be able to hear and feel as well as think.
And he listened and he heard.
Felt, he thought, he made a decision. Now you have these positive stories all around the world about news breaking in the Gambia toward extending life.
Yeah, because since yesterday I saw it on Fox News online, and it's also on CNN. They're all saying good things about Gambia. But one thing that also has a large influence on spreading negative information in the Gambia is the online newspapers. And these were the ones that we are writing about you coming over to the Gambia and putting up a phone number for people to reach you. Were you able to talk to some Gambians before you come over here? And what are some of the things, what were some of their concerns that they were putting forward to you?
Well, we did talk, and the question that, A, would you rather us not attempt to stop executions or not? Would you rather us attempt to set the captive free or not? And those who are clear thinking say, well, at least try. He may not do it, but try. I was asked one time to get Lieutenant Robert Goodman out of Syria. And President Reagan was the president at the time. And I got him and said, well, what did you do different than President Reagan? I said, I tried. Sometimes trying matters. Sometimes shooting past our doubts and our fears matter. I mean, that is unfinished business in this challenge. The Gambia is not a perfect place, it's a public place. There's always controversy and give and take in the public space. And there's a tug of war for the soul of our country all the time within America, within Gambia, and we hope that our better angels prevail.
And I saw on the news the last time you talked about investors looking this way.
Well, investment usually follows order and peace and justice. If there is disorder, if there is peace and injustice and corruption, investors shy away. And so if all that you see about a given country is violence and fear and death and uncertainty, instability, people shy away. When one senses there is inclusion, growth, nonviolence, that country becomes investment worthy. There are people today who will take another look at the Gambia in terms of investment. They feel that decisions can be made here that's wholesome.
But what do you think now that you've been here? Well, if you have to advise them and talk to them like this.
My point is that when one looks at the port development and the ferries, the arrows pointing upward. When one looks at the ocean front development, the arrows pointing upward. When one looks at the hospital handling 700 patients a day with almost no infant mortality, the arrow is pointing upward. And one sees Gambians coming home from American universities to teach at the university at home, the arrows pointing upward. And so this is a place for growth and investment. So, example, if you have a whole gallon of milk, and 1 or 2 flies can destroy the whole gallon. And so we must figure out some way to keep hope alive and to keep growth alive and to be able to handle these crises in some transparent judicial process.
Sometimes it's the media too, because the media seem to focus a lot on news that is a bit negative. Like good things will happen, but they will never be covered.
Sometimes its nature is to search out fights. I remember the first time I ran for presidency, no matter what I did, I brought Goodman home from Syria. It was because I was lucky and Assad used me. And when I got him out after tough negotiations, They said, well, who paid the hotel bill? They were just searching for a way out. And so someone asked me when the campaign was over what I remember the most about the media. I said, one day I was with the Pope out in a boat. We were rowing the boat and we